and welcome to tonight's episode of Tag Talking Ryde-Eastwood. Tonight's episode is episode 6. If you happen to miss out on last week's episode, we had John Florio, Michael Poon and Jonathan Trin, and also Simone Malaro. So if you missed out on that episode, all you got to do is go to our wall on here on Instagram, and you will be able to rewatch the episode along with all the previous ones as well. If you don't want to watch it on here, you're more than welcome to watch it on YouTube. Just go to Ryde-Eastwood Ostag on YouTube and subscribe to us along, and you'll see that the content is up there for viewing. Now, make sure when you tune in, you give a thumbs up or a wave, so then you can go into the draw to win a prize on the last week. Now, talking about that, just make sure that you do tune in for episode 8. Where there'll be some details about how you win a prize and what you need to do when prizes get called out. So make sure you tune in for that. Tonight's episode, we've got Rowan Williams, we've also got Todd Palmer, and we've also got Jeff. Now, Jeff, I do apologise, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce your name. So guys, make sure you give a thumbs up or a wave when you tune in, and we'll get our first guest on in Rowan Williams. Rowan, how are you, mate?
Good, good. How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. We'll keep it short and sharp because I know you've got the family to deal with, especially with the little one.
All good.
All right, so let's start with when you started playing Ostag.
So I've been playing in the Ride comp for about, I think this is my 15th year playing in the Ride comp. We were the young guns when we started. We were the young guns for a while, playing, winter, summer, probably 3 comps a year, really. And we're no longer called the Young Guns for obvious reasons. But we sort of finished, basically as soon as we finished school, we made a team, a bunch of people, a lot of whom had never played footy or anything like that before, and just sort of, loved the Oztag, the combo of, not quite touch, but not contact, because we're not the biggest team. And but a lot of fun. And the core group of us have been together for the whole time, basically. So played, I don't know, a few thousand hours of Oztag in the Ride and St Ives comps, I reckon. So,
well, talking about like Ride, St Ives, and I'm pretty sure you've also spent some time at Hornsby. Now those comps obviously a lot smaller to what Ride is. Like it's massive difference, but obviously from you being up there, what's the difference between obviously the atmosphere between those areas to what it is at Ride?
Yeah, it's a good point. St Ives particularly is more social, and there's a lot of teams that are kind of starting their first couple of years that have just finished school themselves, and whereas Ride now is the quality is very high. The first div is almost a sort of state cup quality. A lot of the teams are close to it, and so I've sort of seen that grow over time as well. We were in first div for a lot of our Ride career, and winning the titles in mixed and in men's, but then the quality has gotten better and we have stayed the same. So, but yeah, I kind of there's it's a place where you definitely test yourself against really good quality opposition in Ride, and it's still quite. It's a very friendly atmosphere, even though it's much more competitive. People take it more seriously. The teams have a lot of experience, which means that a lot of you can learn a lot playing Ride, watching other teams and the structures that they have, the way they talk in defence, that kind of stuff.
Do you think, given that Ride is so big, that it takes away from the other competitions? Like I know, looking through all the rego sheets and that, like you're based, you and your whole crew, from Young Guns and Ruskin Muskets are from up St Ives Way, but you choose to travel all the way down. Do you think, and there's a number of other people that do the same thing as well, but do you think, given that Ride is so big, it takes away from the other comps at the same time? Like it dilutes what could potentially go up there because how well established Ride is?
Potentially. I mean, it might be a kind of decision from Fidel and the Oztag team as well about what's worth investing in if you can get most of the people in the pool around you to come to Ride versus St Ives. And I know there's been a few years where St Ives particularly has almost not gone ahead because there haven't been enough teams. And so it's, you've got to give the same number of resources and refs almost to have it run for way fewer teams than he would at Ryde. So yeah, it's kind of natural, I guess, that it's all kind of gravitated towards Ryde. The Hornsby comp is pretty good as well, and the quality of theirs is quite high in the top teams. A few rep players there as well, and we have a few people that come down from the Central Coast actually and play in the Hornsby team, in the Hornsby comp as well.
Given that it's so close between, it's not that far of a travel, just straight down that one road, and you're basically nearly there because it's pretty much off the freeway.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're part of a very exclusive group where you played reps for Ku-ring-gai.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure this is the only team that has basically gone through to represent Ku-ring-gai. Can you tell us briefly what that was like?
Yeah, so it was one of those years when Fidel was really trying to grow the St Ives team, and he'd seen us play at St Ives and also at Ryde, and so he approached our team and a few other teams as well to put together a team a mixed team to play in the State Cup. I think it was 2013 from memory, and we went up to Tamworth, and for a lot of our team it was our first experience at State Cup, and it was great that we knew a lot of the team already, but it was a real kind of an eye-opener in terms of the quality. Even just the difference between when someone scores a try, you get the ball back, as opposed to the opposite in social. So we did actually win a game fairly comfortably, and we lost another one closely. But then we played Campbelltown, I think they went on to win it that year, and we lost 29-0. And we basically, they just come up, kick a 50-10, get the ball back, score. We kick it back to them. They just do the same again and again and again. So it was a real learning experience for us. But, I'd encourage, if anyone gets the opportunity to join a State Cup team, even if you're, fairly new to the rep scene, if you're, it's quite a welcoming atmosphere as well. In the teams really support each other around our region as well. So we had a lot of fun, met a lot of great people, and played the people that we met there. Some of whom we played in our team for a few years after that as well. So,
just into the last question now. Obviously, we've spoken about this. You're also part of, you're going to be one of the first people to pretty much come back to the comp, given you've done your ACL, but without surgery. Now, you're one of the first people. Now, ACL injuries are one of the most devastating injuries in any sporting capacity. I've had one myself 8 years ago, actually 9 years ago now, and it's really hard to come back. But you are very fortunate that you didn't require surgery. Can you tell us how?
That's right. Yeah, very lucky. So I was lucky when I tore my ACL at OzTag at the Marsfield comp on a Tuesday night and in January. And basically I was very lucky I didn't do any other damage to my knee, and so no meniscus damage, no other ligaments. And, 3 or 4 days later I could single leg squat, just bodyweight squat on that knee. So I was very lucky that functionally my knee was stable basically. And there's sort of this growing body of research that suggests that there are some, like a subset of all people who do their ACL, that are candidates for a non-surgical approach and just use physical rehab, physio, to rebuild their stability and get the left leg and the right leg back to kind of equal strength and that kind of stuff, and not need the surgery and be able to perform at a sport like athletic level in something like OzTag without that much increased risk. Because once you have an ACL, as you would know, you have an ACL reconstruction and there's still increased risk of degeneration, wear and tear on the knee. Yeah. Because they drill a hole into your knee to reattach your ligament that they create. So either way, as soon as you've done it, you've got an increased risk of future knee problems, basically. And yeah, I got the official all clear from my physio on Friday, and the comp's starting on Tuesday, so it's really great timing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, well, and it also helps that I'm not that fast or agile in the first place. So there's only so much pressure I can put on my knee. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a challenge, but it'll be good fun.
Well, it's good to hear. Hopefully it all goes well, especially with your first game back, and fingers crossed. But look, I really do appreciate you coming on and just giving a quick talk about the other comps and your injuries and also Ku-ring-gai reps. So I'll let you get back to the family, but thank you so much as well, Rowan.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I'm always happy to talk OzTag, whether people want to hear it or not.
Well, I'll see you on Tuesday night.
See you then. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Okay, guys, there was our first special guest in Rowan Williams. He's been a long time servant, 15 years of Sydney Ostag. Okay, guys, so we're going to head on to our next special guest in Todd Palmer. If you don't know him, well, you definitely got to speak to the guy because this guy is all sport, all fitness, everything. So he's a referee, helps me out, and he's also the captain of the men's team that I'm coaching as well. So, hey, Toddy, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. Is that the setup behind you of the new gym?
Yeah, mate. I'm in the garage at the gym at the moment.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you've got I think a birthday on tonight, so I won't keep you up for too long. But can you tell us where Toddy Palmer started his Ostag?
Uh, I started, I don't even know, a couple of years back with Elsley. Got me down to fill in for a couple of games for that's what she said, and just started with them, played a couple of years, and then just decided to make my own team down at mixed, and then joined in with you boys for Superman with the goat Costi, and
The goat.
I hear the whole time about hanging around and just having fun whilst playing tag. So, yeah.
Okay. So from there, you've gone on, played State Cup. You've played nationals for Tigers and also Sydney Patriots. While you've also represented Sri Lanka in the Oceania Cup back in 2016, I believe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So can you tell us if there's a significant moment that you've had in tag?
I'd probably say training with the Warriors boys in their prep for nationals and then going overseas with them to play in New Zealand. That was pretty good. We ended up winning, so it's the first tournament where I've won a competition in, and just to see how well they join together. Where even if they're down, there's still an opportunity there to win no matter what. It's just to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and the result's going to come no matter what. I just feel as though they were just that well-balanced team, and it sort of set me up to come back to Ryde and try and help us out a bit more too.
Well, talking about that coming back now, you are my go-to person. A lot of the boys do look up to you, and a lot of people do take pride in playing with you. Now, we talk about the team. What's your view on the way that Ryde should run its team? Because we have all the talent out there amongst everyone, but we struggle to get it all together at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, we have big chats about this all the time. I feel as though Ryde has to go down the passage of having one team, like one men's team and one mixed team, to try and get the best talent. Look at Speedy, for example, going to Homebush to play with the best team that he can play with, instead of staying back with Ryde and making our teams as best as we can. And I feel that's because we have the three teams, and so the better players go, I'll go play Div 2 or Div 3 with my mates, instead of trying to make Ryde the best possible team. And as you said, all the talent out there for us to become a top 2, top 3 team with, Central Coast and Homebush. But I feel as though with that option to go play lower divs, it just doesn't set us up well.
Do you think off the top of your head now, the people that we can rattle off in names and all that, do you possibly think that we could challenge a top 4 spot if everyone got together and we actually had the best 16 out there on the field?
Yeah, 100%. The 1 year we got everyone to play, I think we lost 2-1 to Homebush in one of the games, and there's a few refs decisions where things didn't go away, and it could have been a draw, could have been a win, but 2-1 against the best team that's won 4 in a row state cups. I mean, pretty much shows you there that we can handle it.
So there is talent there amongst, because I remember that team as well, 2017, there was 12 out of 16 from Ryde, and both you and Mahim both led that team out there in the middle, and Speedy was part of that group, and Carl. It was a very talented team. So what do we do to fix things moving forward? How do we get these players that are, talented out there to, come give this state cup a go?
I don't know, mate. I think that's your job. You're asking me the big questions here.
Well, look, I'm just there to coach the team. You have the pulling power. I know certain people only play if you play. So,
I don't know. I think it's just a commitment thing. It's the Ryde's a comp where we just come down for fun and have a bit of laugh around with our mates. And then once it comes to that serious stuff, we all have better things to do. Like, as you know, I'd prefer to go play rugby than come play state cup, and I prefer to go to other things. But you come together for a fun weekend, and as long as you get the best 16 and you're committed for that 12 weeks, 14-week lead up to it, that's fine. You're going to push to that top spot if you join for the 14 weeks going into it. then your team's set.
Okay, so I'll just ask you a few last things before I let you go. Are you ready for tomorrow?
Of course, I'm always ready for Oztag.
But are you ready to referee though? Are we going to see the number one referee out there?
I've missed copping it left, right, and centre off teams. A bit of fun, pulling people into line. It's good fun. Of course, I'm.
But talking about that, like refereeing, playing, you play rugby, you're a school teacher and all that. Where do you find the energy to be able to do this?
Well, I find as a teacher, you have to get your mind off it somehow, and then just putting away a Monday, Tuesday night to run around, have a bit of a laugh with mates, watch people play footy, get to training, like all that. It just gets my mind off teaching, which is something that needs to be done. Like you don't want to be sitting around thinking about work the whole time. You need that off, that place to switch off, go with the mental side, have a bit of a laugh. All that it just helps playing tag on a Monday, Tuesday.
All right. Well, look, mate, I appreciate you coming on. I'll let you get back to the family and that, and we'll definitely see you tomorrow, nice and early. Don't be late.
Yeah, mate, I'm always on time. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you, mate.
See you, mate.
Okay, guys, that was Todd Palmer. He's the captain of the men's team that I'll be coaching for State Cup. He is a wonderful player and also a really good mate that we consult many things about the team moving forward. Now, we're going to head into the last special guest, but before we call him forward, now, just remember, when you're joining into the segment, make sure you give a thumbs up or a wave, just so that you can go into the draw to win a prize on the last episode, which will be week 9, which I'll be getting interviewed, and then we'll be doing the prizes as well. So make sure you keep the thumbs up coming. Okay, guys, this last special guest, now I'm really excited to have him on. When he agreed to do this, I basically jumped up and down because he is someone that has so much knowledge within the game, and he's the current coach of the Australian men's team, and he's been the coach for a number of years now. So to be able to get an insight on what he does and operates as a coach is very insightful, especially for the Ryde area. Not just that, but also just a few little tips that we can give back to all the social teams operating within the Ryde comp, given that we have, over 120 teams on an average now. So our last special guest is Jeff. Jeff, how are you, mate?
Hey, mate, how you going?
Not too bad. First time meeting, so I really appreciate you coming on board for this. Let's go. Let's start with when you started playing Oztag, because you would have started a long time ago.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeff, you there? We just lost a little bit of reception. Oh,
It's good sorted now. Yeah, I'm not great. I'm not great with technology, but yeah, I started probably around 2006. So I was 26 at the time. So I did start a long time ago, but I wasn't young. But yeah, quite a long time. I was playing in the teachers team. I'm a teacher also, like Toddy, and they invited me to join a team, and I went down and played and loved it, and sort of all went from there.
Okay, now you as a player, or even as a coach, let's talk about both. Now you've played in the 2007 World Cup. Obviously, I got some information about you, and you've done a number of things along the way. Now, in your 14 years, what would you say would be your most significant moment?
I don't know. It's hard to pick out one, but yeah, obviously the World Cup. I've played in 2 World Cups, but all the nationals in the state that we've won, I mean, they're all different, all important for different reasons. When I played, I really enjoyed it. I got to a point where I could no longer play due to injuries and things like that. So even I've enjoyed a lot of the victories and even times when we haven't won, but we've achieved just playing along the way. I really like playing with people. I like sport, and state cup and nationals and those tournaments are great. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to pick one, but we've won we've won five state cups and 6 nationals as a player. So it's hard to sort of, when I was younger, I really liked it because it was the first time I did it. But then as I got older, sort of had a different role in the team, and I enjoyed it because, I knew it was coming towards an end. And probably in the middle, I really enjoyed it too because probably I was contributing more than what I was at the start and then at the end. So hard to, identify it, but all those have been really good, special moments.
So obviously you just mentioned that you had to stop playing given injuries and all that, is that what transitioned you into a coach, or were you already planning for that world before that?
I've always liked coaching. Like I'm a teacher and I've coached rugby league for a long time. And as a teacher, I'm taking all sorts of teams and things like that. But sort of towards the end of playing, we didn't actually have a coach. Sort of Dane Myers, who was past captain, me and him we lived together and we sort of ran it as sort of, I know, sort of captain coach. We didn't really have a coach. We just sort of ran it. And so I guess when I stopped playing, it was, I was disappointed, but I wanted to stay involved and do what I could and probably thought I could help. But initially it wasn't with the men's. I mean, Dane still kept on playing and they probably didn't have a need for me then. And it was actually probably 6 months after I stopped playing the girls. The Open women's team asked me to coach, and I knew a few of the girls that I'd coached at school teams and things like that. So I took that up. They weren't getting to Sunday at that point, and I thought I could maybe just help just with a little bit of organisation and just a little bit of structure. And eventually, a couple of tournaments in it, they won State Cup against Cronulla that hadn't been beaten. So from then I was pretty happy. And then after that, the couple of years, Dane and a few of the boys stopped playing, and they had a real big transition, and they lost a lot of players, the Open men's team. And Breno, who's playing now, just said, "Look, can you help us out? We're sort of battling a bit just for players," and we just sort of said, "Okay, we'll do this. We'll get people in that want to play, and we'll start again." And that happened probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, and so we sort of just built from that, and sort of to the point where we won nationals last time. So that's really good.
Well, talking about your team, like obviously being a coast boy, just for everyone that's watching. Now, between you and Homebush, both areas are both very dominant in this men's area. While they've dominated the last 4 years in State Cup, you are more, I would say, probably more successful in the nationals over the last couple of years. Like the Country Bulls in 2015, and then I'm pretty sure, was it 16 or 17, you went on and won it. And then, there's been countless times. Can you explain why there's such a difference between State Cup to nationals for your team?
Yeah, we sort of won. I don't know why it is, but we've won sort of 6 or 7 of the last 9 nationals, and we tend to be stronger there. Probably one thing I'd put it down to is we do have a few guys that play league, like Mitch Williams, who was part of the Rooster system, and a few other guys that can't play State Cup necessarily, but they always play for national. So that's one reason. But in saying that, the Warriors and Homebush have been successful, and we have been competitive at State Cups and things like that. But I just think it's just how it panned out. We've won 2 of the last 3 nationals, and I don't necessarily think that those teams have been too much better than our State Cup team, but obviously we have more options to choose from, and that gives me a bit of flexibility with trials and things like that. With State Cup, I sort of have to take who we've got because, we do have people try, but we've got a few less players to pick from. But it doesn't change too much for us. It's just Homebush beat us by 1 in the last minute earlier on last year, and I mean it could have went either way. I actually thought I wasn't disappointed with that. I thought we played really well the whole tournament. It just came to that one game, and they just happened to, they were a confident team and they happened to take their opportunity. So that's all that was.
Well, that was probably one of the best games I've probably watched in a long time, given for a men's grand final. 2 very dominant teams throughout the whole tournament, and you are closing the gap on them. But given that you have X amount of players that are Aussie players, do you feel as though you have an advantage against the Homebush boys that they have so many Lebanese players? You're basically looking at it's Australia versus Lebanon pretty much as when it comes to playing against each other. Do you look at it like that sometimes? Oh,
not really. I mean, they're their own team and they're right, and we've got guys in our team that don't necessarily represent Australia that I think are good players. I don't see it as us versus them. At this point in time, I see it as 2 teams that are committed teams that train hard and that are at the top at the moment, which could change at any point. I mean, closing the gap, I feel like we've always had pretty close games. We played them twice at Nationals and were able to manage to beat them twice. One in the final, which was a drop-off, but we beat them in the earlier rounds, 6-1. We do quite well against them. It's just they are consistent. They play, they train for it. They get together. They want it. They have the same guys, playing year after year. They're a competitive team, and for any team that wants to be successful, us or them, I think that's important to just keep building on what you've got. And you've got committed guys that are keen to get better. I think you will get better eventually if that's what you want to happen.
Okay, so let's talk about you as a coach. Now, you've got the hardest job, in my opinion, for Oztag. Now, you're coach of the Australian Men's Opens team, which probably gets the most attention across all the teams because you're in one of those main divisions. You're in an Opens division. It's men's. Most of us view the sport as a male-dominant sport. Now, do you feel as though there's pressure on you every time you're heading into a tournament?
I don't. I think the hardest part is selecting the players because a lot of guys I have seen a lot of times, and obviously the blokes in the Central Coast team I have seen a lot of, but there's other guys that I haven't seen much of, and I might only see them in a tournament. But it's really hard to get a gauge on a player just watching them play. I'm not seeing them train, and I'm not seeing how committed they are and things like that. So last World Cup, there was a bit of pressure that they hadn't done well prior to that World Cup, and I was asked to sort of coach, and I thought it was something that I could do, and we actually we got beaten in the semi-final against a really good New Zealand team, and it was kind of hard because we are expected to win, and I thought we had a good enough team to win, but there are other teams in our division that are capable of beating us, and so I guess it's something that it can happen to us, and we know that we're a target also, but I don't feel pressure. I feel like I want to try to make the group sort of appreciate being selected amongst the best 16 players in the country, and I want to make them take it professionally. There's 200,000 Oztag players in Australia, and I really ram home the fact that they're one of the lucky ones, and that if you get chosen in this team, I want you, regardless of the result, I want you to commit, and I want you to try to do the best because there's a lot of eyes on you and people want to see you perform, and you're not doing yourself a favour if you're not turning up and you're not looking after yourself. So generally, if I think that someone doesn't really care that much, then we might go for someone else who's going to grab that opportunity. It's just hard to know who does want the opportunity and who doesn't care so much, I guess.
Well, talking about all that now, obviously you had a training session today with some of the boys, and you're basically on the road to the World Cup for next year over in Ireland, which is early August, if I got that correctly. Yeah. What's your setup in basically getting the group together and basically preparing them for it? Like, what are your methods?
Well, so basically what we'll do, we had a run today. There's a squad of 32 at the moment, which will be brought down to 20 before we go. There's meant to be a trial within the next month or two. They're just trying to finalise dates. So then we'll bring that squad from 32 to 20. Basically after that, it's kind of hard with everyone living, in different areas. We've got 4 guys from Queensland. We've got guys from the South Coast, guys from everywhere. So I'll try to do a schedule. A lot of it, the guys are, going to be playing and they're going to keep fit anyway, but we do want to touch base with each other regularly, once a month for the next 12 months, and then probably a couple more regular sessions towards when we actually go. And then also touching base at State Cup and Nationals and, just making sure that we, catching up and then hopefully go over to Ireland and we'll have some relationships and some combinations and things like that develop. A lot of them, we won the International Challenge sort of earlier or late last year, and sort of those 16 guys in that team, I think maybe 12 continue on to the squad. So we are starting to get some, continuity. So hopefully that will make us the transition to turning us into a successful team will be a bit easier, I reckon.
Can you give us a bit of an insight into how you operate as a coach with your training? Obviously, there's a lot of people that are watching. I, for one, always keen to see what an Australian coach would do. Can you give us just a little bit of an insight to it?
Yeah, well, it's different for different teams, but today, I guess, I wanted to see a lot play. As I said to you before, I've seen some that have played a lot and some I haven't, and it's hard to know which style we want to play until I work out what sort of players we've got. There's no use me going in and saying, look, we're going to play this way, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, if that doesn't suit the qualities of our team. So I will assess what we've got, which, I've got a fair idea of some of the players that we've got, and we'll play to our strengths, but we'll also adjust it to suit who we've got. So, if we've got good passes, we're going to, do a lot more passing. If we've got good kickers, then we'll kick early. So we've just got to assess where our strengths are. We've got to sort of assess where our, weaknesses are, and we've got to come up with a game plan over the course of the next year on how we think we can best play. I mean, for me, the result, although it's important, everyone likes winning, the result is not what drives me. It's about getting better, and if you're getting better and you're working hard and you're continually improving, I'll be a happy coach. The result, there's times that we've played really well and haven't won, and there's times that we've won and I haven't been happy. So, I don't think you can focus on the result so much. It's more about improving and continually getting better each time. That's what I'm big on.
Well, does it make it, given that you have the luxury of picking pretty much at nationals, every single person can basically tick off their name in being available for the Australian selection. Does it make it easier for you as a coach that you don't have to work so much on the small little details on the game, that basically you're picking the best? Okay, so in this example, 32 players that are basically took part at nationals. They are at the top of their game. Does it make it easy for you as a coach?
Well, it can, yeah. Obviously, there's things that I don't have to teach them that they're going to know. They're tagging skills, and they generally at that level, you're going to have to be pretty fit. So there's a lot of fitness and things that I probably wouldn't have to worry about. But also what comes with that is some potentially are confident, and some can be overconfident because they might be the best player in their team or the best player in their region, and people might be saying that, and that can be hard to coach too. So, yes, there are things that make it easier, but there are also things that are more challenging. Also, a lot of them are going to, come with their own opinions. I mean, if sometimes when I coached the girls, they were ready to listen to what I said because, they wanted to learn. But you coach experienced people like there would have been in the NRL. You're coaching people that have got their own opinions, and you've got to get them on board with what the team wants to do. And that can be challenging at times if they don't agree with the style. But it's challenging in its own way, but it also, yes, there's certain things that I wouldn't have to work on that the local coach would have to work on also.
So let's talk about Ireland. Now, it's the first World Cup that's heading to the Northern Hemisphere for the first time. Obviously, we hope that everything is still going to go on, given, with this pandemic that's basically taken place, and hopefully in a year's time, it'll be in a much better position. Now, you and I have spoken about a few little concepts that I would like to bring up about, what we should see as a big four or potentially other things. Do you believe the current calendar of Oztag works for, say, someone in your position as an Australian coach?
Look, I said it to you before. I think there's things that we can do better. With anything, I think there's always things you can improve. I mean, I was saying to you, I think the concept seems to change from year to year, which is hard to sort of get a head around. But I do think that the Ireland World Cup is a great concept. It gives guys opportunities to get, not only play overseas, but also, go for a good holiday and with a group, and that's going to be, something that we'll never forget. Obviously, in some divisions, Australia are pretty dominant, and it's hard to get quality opposition. Now, getting chosen for Australia, I think I told you before, I think it's massive recognition for what guys are doing, locally and on the rep scene and things like that. But in terms of a contest, I think in some divisions, we're lucky that we've got Lebanon and a few teams in New Zealand that are pretty competitive in our division. But I see some of the other divisions, and I think, yes, it's great that they make the team and they're really, really happy. But when it goes to the contest, the contest is probably not there in some like it could be. And I don't know how to. I think some nations are getting stronger, and I think other nations are improving. But I think there's things that we can do better to make it a bit more of a genuine contest between the Australian teams and possibly some other teams. But it's something I think we can improve.
So just so everyone that's viewing can understand what we're talking about in the Big Four. Now you had Australia, Lebanon, Pacific Islands, and it was like a fourth team was basically put in of a different nation in each division, if I remember correctly. But in the conversation that you and I have had, I proposed the idea, which I've also brought up to Fidel, that we have Australia, Indigenous, we have a Mediterranean United, we have an Asian All-Star, along with Pacific Islands. Now, if I believe in that kind of concept, we would see a much more competitive outfit to challenge Australia across all divisions. Because like you said, some divisions, there are two teams that are very, very dominant, that can basically put on a good showing of the game. And that's what we want. We want a good show of the game ultimately, because we're not just a game, but we're a brand, and competing against other sports. Do you believe, I know you've already answered this, but just so everyone can see, do you believe that concept of that 5 areas would be able to work?
I definitely think something like that would be really good. It's just whether someone that plays for the European team or someone that plays for the Asian team, whether they buy into it and that it means something that they're going to represent their continent. Because I know when you see Vietnam or you see China or you see some of these teams play, they're really passionate about representing their team because it is their country and it's their heritage, and we all like doing that. I agree with you totally on having these different groups. I guess, I'm part Greek myself. I just wonder if some of these nations would embrace the concept and want to do that and make it something that they want to play. And if that was the case and the teams are stronger, I'm all for anything that makes, for a good contest and gives Australia a real good challenge. Because, as you say, we've got 200,000 players, and I think there is a little bit of a hole in the market where the elite aren't getting seen as much as people would like, and something like that I think would really give an opportunity for us to showcase our sport at its very best, for sure.
Well, I think the concept would work in the sense that we're combining a lot of the areas all together. We're grouping the nations together because while they're separated at the moment, the gap is way too big. From Australia, New Zealand, and Lebanon, they're classified as the big 3. The fourth one being the Indigenous. Those 4 nations there. Once you go past that, you've got one nation in probably each division that might be strong enough to try and compete, but it's still well off the mark. And obviously that comes down to coaching methods, players being available, and just the talent and all the different other aspects. But migrating it all together, which I spoke to Fidel about on Friday, that if the concept really got put together and actually done really well, Australia would have something that they could actually be pretty proud of, because you're playing against other areas that are migrating together, which would be something unique.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. If I could imagine if you chose an Asian side or you chose a European side. I mean, we played the Italians, and there was a handful at the last international challenge, and there was a handful of players that were, good players. Probably they're making up the numbers for the back end of their roster, but you put them with the Greeks and you put them with other teams, and Italians, the Greeks, and whoever else plays, you're going to come up with a stronger team. So I would definitely support. I think that does have merit, and particularly the Asian teams. In Sydney, there's just so many Vietnamese and basically Chinese, Japanese playing. There's a lot of people playing, and if they were to combine, I think they could be a really, really strong team for sure.
Okay, as we head into the last few things now, I want to touch back on the road to Ireland, and basically, you're a very passionate man. From the conversation we've had, we both share similar interests. We're both very passionate about the sport, and basically promoting it. Now, your men's team now. Australian men's is getting a really good following base now. How do we basically promote the Australian men's team even more, that we want to get more back in and supporting, because you've got some wonderful players in there. You've got the young Con in there who, is big on Instagram and got a ton of followers. We've seen some of his tries from when he played the 2018 World Cup. Then your very own Breno as well, who Siva talks very highly of as being probably one of the best players going around. So how do we get the Australian men's team to promote more? Like what needs to go out there?
Yeah, look, I think the streaming of the finals has been one thing that's been really good that they've done recently, and that gives exposure for a lot of the best players. I do think that men's and women's and mixed in particular need to take priority on those centre fields. I mean, and this, I don't want to sound biased, but I mean, even if I wasn't coaching men's, I would like to see the best. And I think in sometimes we don't do that. We don't. I mean, the World Cup semi-final against us versus New Zealand, it was 5-5 at the end of the game, and it went off into drop-off, and it was one of the fastest games that I've seen, and we ended up losing. But no one saw that game, and I feel that was a massive opportunity that OzTag have missed. I think that they need to make sure that they're covering the best players. Therefore, if you're doing that, and young up-and-comers are going to see that, and they're going to aspire to want to be there, which is only going to improve the game even more. So that's one thing. I think OzTag could do more to promote the best players. Look, I think at the moment, Breno is the best player in OzTag at the moment, and I don't know if people even know who he is. So for me, there's a number of ways you can do it. Obviously the Instagram and social media is big, but I just think that they need to maybe get the Australian teams involved with coaching programs of kids and things like that. And I think there's a whole lot of different things they can do. Just even videoing our training session today would have been good. I think a lot of people would have been interested to see some of the things that go on, and I just think they can get more coverage. I think it's good for the players. The best players are going to want to do that. It's good reward for them, but I also think it's good for the game in promoting it. We want to, every other game seems to promote its best, and I think that we could do that quite a bit better.
Well, I do agree with you that we do lack basically the marketing tools to really compete against the other sports. If we want to be classified as the fastest growing sport, which we are in that sense, but we do fall behind in a lot of other areas, that our marketing, like you said, advertising the best players to go around. If we're not prioritizing our big three divisions in the men's, women's and mixed opens, then I think personally the questions need to be asked as to what are we really doing as a sport as a whole, because these are the best 16 in each division that you're trying to showcase, and basically you want everyone within the nation to be able to see this and witness this, because it's not just a game, it's a brand that's competing against rugby league, touch, and rugby union. And that you look at the way that touch advertises their stuff, and they've got it down pat, but we still tend to miss those little steps, that one step in between, and we're falling behind.
100%. You only need to watch the games on Friday night. Scott Drinkwater was a big OzTag player. Jay Field, big OzTag player. Xavier Coates. Connor Watson. I could tell you so many players that have started their NRL careers from OzTag, and I just feel that OzTag does give so many players something. People want to see it. The best players in NRL you'll see over the next couple of years are going to hone their skills. Nathan Cleary, they've all played OzTag. I just thought, and I know they had their reasons, but Nationals was a perfect opportunity. The Warriors were at the top of their game. I think they were at their peak. We were playing well, and it was set up for a great final. And because there was minor arguments in the earlier rounds, the game got removed from TV. As it turned out, it ended up being one of the best games ever. It was 2-2 at end of time. It went to a drop-off, and it was end-to-end stuff. And, we ended up being able to win and score, but no one seems to know about it or see these players. And I just feel for some of these really good athletes that are, that some are really dedicating a lot of time to OzTag, and I just feel we're missing an opportunity to show it, and for kids to want to, it would only take a kid to see that and watch that game and say, look, I want want to play Oztag. That's what I want to do, and I just think we need to do that better for sure.
We're talking about how you had your game relocated onto another field because of an incident that happened on an earlier, which was even on another day. We had the same incident for the Sydney Patriots 30s. We got actually moved to put on a different division. We were meant to be on Field 1, which was on a Sunday, which, as you know, is televised. And we had to get moved. It was a semi-final, us against Tigers, to basically Field 3. Then we were meant to be for the grand final on Field 1, and then we get moved again. And it ended up being for, in no disrespect, it was to a women's seniors game. They got put ahead of us, but it was, we played the grand final against the Dolphins, and we had the Kennedy boys, who are big touch players. Now, to showcase that, showing, that these two boys who are high up in their touch category, making the transition over to tag, would have been a perfect another example. Instead of playing second fiddle to all these other sports, we would have had a leg up for once.
Oh, 100%. I don't want to bag Oztag. I mean, I think they did what they thought was the best at the time, but, if they had spoken, I mean, it was two very competitive teams going at each other. The reason that it got to the point that it did, it was because, the Warriors hadn't been beaten like that in the time, and they were frustrated, and that's because it's a good contest, and I don't have no disrespect to either team doing it. It got overheated because it's competitive, and I think people want to see that. There was nothing untoward. It all ended, and they were fine. And all they needed to say, they punished whoever needed to be done, and all they needed to say, okay, we're going to put you on Field 1, and like they need to do with you, but if you guys do it again, you'll be punished, and you won't be playing here again. Again, there was no issue in our final. It was played hard. It was played fair. The Warriors are great guys, and they're competitive, and we're competitive. But it's when you're competing at that level, and things are not going to be going perfect. It happens in the NRL, but to not show it because it's a really good contest, I think the game that replaces, and no disrespect to it at all, but it ended up being 9-1, and I just feel hopefully they learn, and hopefully we don't miss opportunities like ours and like yours, because I think people want to see it, and I think the footage that we can use from that we can then use for other things, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. I was just disappointed that it was a great game, and it would have been good for the Oztag public to see it.
Mate, I can feel your pain on that. But look, I'm going to finish up there. I really appreciate you coming on board, Jeff. I look forward to constantly talking to you and probably getting some more tips off you on how to better myself as a coach and that. But I really do appreciate you giving up your time, and I wish the boys all the luck. Heading into the World Cup, it's going to be a long 13 months, but under your watch, they'll definitely go all the way. And I really do appreciate what you and everyone else does for the sport.
Cheers, James. Thanks for it, mate. You're doing a great job. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. I'll talk to you soon.
See you, bud.
Okay, guys, there was our third special guest for the night in Jeff. Now, he's the Australian Men's Open's coach, and they're heading to Ireland in 2021 August. So be sure to follow them on Instagram. They've been doing a lot of player profiles. The team that he has surrounding him, all wonderful people. I wish them all the luck in heading towards the World Cup. Now, guys, that's going to conclude our segment for tonight. If you are viewing, just make sure you give a thumbs up or a wave just so that you can go into the draw to win a prize on the 9th week. Now, before I let you go, just a heads up for next week's episode, we have Tracy Huang. I hope I pronounced that right. We've got the women's A coach in Danny Eunice, and then we've also got Christopher Harry Olsen, who is the Sydney Patriots Mixed Opens coach and a good friend of mine as well. So those will be our three special guests for next week. And make sure you tune in for the eighth week, as I'll give details on how you'll win a prize on the 9th week. So you just need to tune in for that. But guys, once again, I really do appreciate the support. Make sure you give the video a like when it goes up tomorrow, and hope you stay safe, and exciting that comps are all back tomorrow. So I'll see you all soon, guys. Thank you.